Hello, good morning. Or I should say, good evening from the Philippines, but good morning to those that are watching from overseas. My name is John, and I'm your host this evening. You know, inevitably, many people will come to the Philippines, and after time of readjusting, getting to know the place, discovering the pros and cons of living here in the Philippines as a foreigner, will probably make one of the two choices, one to stay and one maybe to go. Now, of course, not all will go home to where they came from, but some will probably follow across the waters towards other parts of Asia, such as Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, in search of maybe a slightly different life, a different lifestyle that they can have here in the Philippines. But one of the biggest things that seems to have the biggest effect on Americans coming here is that the comfort that is offered to them within their own country, and that is the health system. And we can argue for the pros and cons in that country too, the same as we can for Australia or New Zealand. We'll come to think about it, maybe the NHS in England. But with those systems set up, Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare in America, just the health system in New Zealand, or the NHS in England, there's a understanding that it is to a certain extent, a cradle to grave system. Nobody has refused health in emergency. No one is held hostage by hospitals in those countries either. But here in the Philippines, of course, you can have all the best systems set up. You can be maybe paying for additional cover to come to the Philippines and extend maybe your health care or insurance, providing that you have enough income to meet the monthly repayments. But if you don't, then you rely completely on the local health system here, which is, even though they do their level best to provide the best service possible, even in some of the most expensive hospitals here in the country, like the St. Luke's, I think it's called, down in Manila, it still lacks the everyday expectations of foreigners, especially those from America, as to the treatment and maybe also the diagnosis. Now, I'm obviously not a doctor, but then so many of those that come from America come here with some pretty chronic diseases, chronic conditions. And when I say that, you can have a back injury, you can have diabetes, you can have heart problems. Many of those can be treated and maintained in terms of an acceptable lifestyle expectation in your own country. But when you come here to the Philippines, of course, the first thing that you'll notice is that a lot of the things that you used to buy, which were often subsidized by either your insurance company or, in fact, your medical cover that you would be entitled to as a retiree in America or Australia or England, don't apply here. So you can get a medication that maybe is a minimum of $5 in Australia. Because it's subsidized, often some of these drugs are very, very expensive. And when you come to the Philippines, you can pay thousands of dollars to get the same treatment that you get for $5, maybe minimum charge in Australia. In England, again, you pay a certain amount per prescription. In New Zealand, I believe that there's a system where that if you have a certain number of claims in a year, you then hit a threshold during that year of your medication, and then it becomes reduced price. But don't hold me to that. I think that also applies in Australia too. You get a medical ceiling where you've been paying in effect a higher price. But once you've reached that ceiling, you get a reduced price, and in many cases, free from that point on. So of course that doesn't apply for foreigners here in the Philippines. One has to be self-funded, so to speak. And of course also, many of you from America come here maybe with a fatter wallet than many of us from England, Australia or New Zealand. And that's not to suggest that I'm envious or that I'm jealous of that fact, but it's a reality that many of you do have much higher income levels when you come here. You don't always have a big nest egg of money. Many of you come here with just Social Security to fall back on, but in many cases that's still a lot higher than what we would get as a retiree from Australia, New Zealand or England per month. Again, no reflection on envy or other things, but it is a reality. And this is maybe one of the biggest reasons why so many expats, not just Americans, are choosing to bail out, to say enough is enough, because clearly there are other issues at stake as well. If you're used to medical help, infrastructure, internet connections, all those things, job opportunities, maybe online, and disappointed at the response that you get from the Philippines. I mean, you can have a job that is online, but you then have to rely on the infrastructure. And we can name different organizations that provide that here, but I don't think that's necessarily wise. We are, after all, guests here, but it's true to say that some organizations here that provide internet are more reliable than others. It also has an effect on where you choose to live. Now, of course, with the introduction of Starlink here in the Philippines, again, it's down to the cost. It does cost a lot more to have a Starlink connection. But once you've got it, in theory, it should be much more reliable than that offered here by the general organization, because it's delivered differently. Now, of course, if you're working online, you're also having to work in a different time zone. So therefore, your days are going to be disrupted here to achieve the same kind of thing. And in reality, why would you want to come to the Philippines, the other side of the world, to carry on working? I mean, is it because you don't have enough money to retire here and have the lifestyle that you thought you'd have? I mean, it's true to say that you are indoctrinated over a lot of different ways, in a lot of different ways, living in the West. We're so used to getting things that we take for granted there, and we transplant ourselves to Asia and the Philippines especially, and we discover that even a simple thing like getting the whole of your order in a restaurant delivered at the table at the same time, so all you and your guests can have an enjoyable sit-down meal, instead of sitting there with one of you tucking into the food, or some of you just nipping a few little bits in here and there while you wait for your main order to arrive. And 9 times out of 10 it won't necessarily be hot. So there's that disappointment alone. But things are getting better. But to find that kind of level of service here, you'd have to go to places like the top-notch hotels in Cebu or the top-notch areas of Manila. Some of the resorts that are available around the country do provide very good service, and they're focused on providing Western level of service. So to say that you come here and expect to find substandard service is not truly being fair on the people. They're doing their best. They're learning the same as we are. So many of the young girls and boys now are doing hotel management, hospitality, all these types of things. But they're learning from people who maybe didn't quite grasp the importance of what they were learning, maybe when they were learning to teach these young students the latest ways of behaving. I mean, you only have to look at some of the organizations that teach young Filipino women, especially, to how to be good housemaids, how to use vacuum cleaners, how to brush properly, how to clean properly. Now, most people would think that would be quite easy, surely. Why would they need to have training schools to do that? Because quite simply, a lot of people have never seen a washing machine. They've never seen a vacuum cleaner or understood what using a good sponge was all about. They're used to just picking up any old bit of cloth, maybe a paper towel even, or a banana leaf to clean something off. So you have to hold your horses a little bit, guys, because even your girlfriend may be not used to using detergent, disinfectant, all of the things that you take for granted to keep an area clean. That's not to say that Filipinos as a general don't know how to keep a house clean. And many of them, of course, have learnt from their mothers, who've maybe also done time, so to speak, overseas in doing that type of thing as a living. So you have to have patience and understanding, but for some who come here, they haven't got enough time to readjust to the ways of the Philippines. The delight of walking along the street. The other day I did one, only yesterday, with Ian, British Expat. What's it? Ian Living in the Philippines is his channel. And you couldn't help but notice, I mean, Ian is a friendly guy, but he stopped at every point. Everybody would say hello, and he would make an effort to stop, and he'd try and have a conversation with each of these people. Hence, it took us nearly 2 hours to do what was generally a 3/4 hour walk. But it emphasizes how friendly the people are here, how eager they are to engage in conversation, to ask questions of us. And that's one of the beauties of being here. So many of the societies we come from have lost that sort of trust to talk to strangers. And here they don't have that fear as such. They obviously naturally would be cautious about who they spoke to if it was maybe somebody out of the area that they knew as a Filipino, and they thought maybe he didn't look quite the type to be wandering around. Is he casing the joint? But for us, we're foreigners, and we invite curiosity by those people around us. And that's why we see them always smiling, always friendly. But we must also remember that partly is they're just being polite to us. I won't use that word respect. They're being polite. And we need to recognize that politeness should be returned. And those that enjoy that kind of interaction, I should say, will love the Philippines for sure. But back to what I'm meaning is that so many of you come here with in a way, arriving without the ability to adapt, prepared to think that others will adapt to you rather than you adapt to them. After all, they did not wake up in the morning and say, we need to be told how to do things. And many of you out there think that it's your place to remind people that, we wouldn't have the patience to put up with that. Really? Well, one of the things the Philippines has got, this idea, I remember seeing it the first day I came here, sign, stand in line. Sounds like the military, doesn't it? Well, in a way it is. They're taught to be calm. They're taught to be non-confrontational. They're taught to be polite. And therefore, we must follow them the same way. And if we don't like the place, don't complain about the place when you've gone. Just accept that it's a lovely time here. Sure, there's things that you would have preferred differently, but so many of you, of course, have not got that desire to recognize that everywhere we go in the world, we have to adapt. And part of adapting is coming to terms with the things that we maybe irritate us, but then saying to ourselves, but this is a lovely place. Why complain? Why is it worth complaining about something you love? Been here 10 years and I'd never, ever consider going back. But what about health? I'm fortunate enough, touching wood, that I haven't got sick. Sure, I'm waiting for my wonderful teeth, which I said hello again to today. I had another 4 impressions made, but I'm told that those new ones, not the orange wax ones, but the gum colour ones, will be here maybe Saturday, Sunday this week. So I'm looking forward to meeting them again, but I'm hoping that they don't chatter too much, if you get my meaning. So, guys, have a lovely evening, have a lovely day. Don't give up on the Philippines that easy. Take your time to adapt, to adjust. But if it is down to medical, I understand why you need to go and look for somewhere else where there may be a better option for it all. If you like this video, don't forget to give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. And we'll catch you again later. Bye now.